Peace and power, peace and life, family. We are back again. Vocal Dialect Podcast. I'm Knowledge Born 7. I'm here also with my business partners and my partners in crime, Kenwato Ikea, Brother Shaka San Kofa from the Street Law Soldiers. We also have Brother Gerald Moore, Street Law Soldiers. And we got a special guest tonight, Abdul Malik Muhummad. How you doing, brother? How's everything going? Cut your volume on. Your volume. Your volume. Your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go, sir. How you doing? Peace. Peace. How you doing?
Peace, love, and life, brothers. How y'all doing, man? I'm blessed, man. Busy
Pretty
as
good.
always, but I'm blessed,
Pretty
man.
good.
Good. Thanks for having me. Great to always be in you guys' presence and in you guys' midst, man. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm honored.
Likewise.
General, how you doing?
All right, brother. How's everything?
I'm doing
Good
fine,
to
brother.
see
General,
you.
I'm
Good
Captain.
to
How
see
you
you.
doing?
Good. Doing great, man. Doing great.
You all look great, man. Glad to hear. Glad to hear. Sorry for the mishap, but it's all good. I'm here now, and let's get this
Right.
let's get this party started.
That's right.
All right, my brother. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and you know how did you become to who you are now? And one thing I do want to ask you, what's your perspective on consciousness?
Okay. First of all, my name is El Malik Abdul Muhammad. I am honored to be the West Coast chairman of the Street Law Soldiers under the guidance, tutelage, and teachings of our Honorable General Tashaka Sankofa. I am also a spokesperson and chief of staff for many other pro-Black organizations, including Committed Consciousness of California and the Black Liberation Movement West Coast chairman. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, an uncle, a cousin, and a brother. And I came into consciousness after my journey through Islam uh, in the late 80s, early 90s. Well, I legally changed my name in 93 after joining the Nation of Islam under the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan out of Mosque number 26B, Minister Keith Muhammad. And once I left the nation, I got into consciousness because I realized that there's tricks and trials and lies and hypocrisy in religion. So I eternally got away from religion and came into the true consciousness of myself. And here I am. I've been uh, uh, following and learning and researching um, brothers and sisters from all walks of life and building my consciousness. I'm also before my last injury where I had to have major spinal cord surgery. I'm a respected motivational speaker. My speaking and my overall work in fighting for freedom, justice, equality, liberation, and salvation has literally taken me all over the world. I spoke in Accra, Ghana in 2012. I've been to Cuba, Puerto Rico, China, all up and down the Caribbean coast. You name it, Brother Malik has pretty much been there. I've stepped easily into 40 or 45 of the 50 U.S. states, including Hawaii. And I'm honored to be here with each and every one of you, brothers and sisters. And thank you so much for having me.
So throughout your voyages and your trek through the United States, what have you practically picked up that you find significant and vital to your consciousness state?
Um, my focus as a private chef and certified pitmaster is I realize that there are poor, hungry, unhoused, and homeless people all over the country, all over the world, and you have those communities in every city, state, and country in the world, and that's what really geared my focus. Started really. I always knew it was bad here in California, but I've also lived in Georgia because of my work. I've also lived in the state of Florida because of my work. And everywhere that I've been, I never lost sight of the fact that there are poor, hungry, and unhoused people that look like you, I, and us everywhere we go.
Okay.
Brother Kenwado, looking good, brother.
So I've been truly enamored with the fact that you do something else. You had mentioned about the raising of the 3 boys that you have, because you're not
Yes.
only a father, you're a caretaker. And I mean, I think that's commendable on your part that you have taken in kids that's not your own. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I started the right after I decided that I was going to do it. One of the first persons that I spoke to outside of family is our General Tashaka. I explained to him what I was doing, and he gave me his overall full support. And I'm also a former classroom educator, and so I've always had a passion, empathy, sympathy, and compassion for those less fortunate than I. But that really started from my childhood. I'm the 9th of 10 children raised in a home with 6 sisters, 3 brothers, and no nonsense Louisiana parents. And so I learned from childhood the importance of sharing and caring and have sympathy and empathy from others through the example of my parents, who always had other children at their home, at our home, because we had one of the biggest families in West Oakland at the time. And so we would get less in order for other children and even adults to be fed. And so when I bought my home about 3 years ago, I bought it with the intentions of retiring and living out the rest of my days. But because of my connection, also as a former lobbyist for the state of California, um, I was simply sent a big yellow packet with the numbers that's showing how out of control the adoption, the foster caring, and the saving from the juvenile hall is to Black boys and girls here in San Joaquin County. I'm familiar with it in Sacramento County, having lived there. Of course, I'm familiar with it in Alameda County, being born and raised in Oakland, but I had never really paid attention to San Joaquin County. And of course, when it was presented to me and I looked at the numbers, I just had to sign off. I mean, there's just no way that I could have seen the numbers that I've seen, where I'm literally witnessing the school to prison pipeline for Black boys and Black girls, especially Black boys. And I felt with my expertise and my experience, why not reach out? I'm a natural born giver. And so, like I said, once I reached out, once I had seen the paperwork, made a few phone calls, I signed off on it. And within a week and a half, the first of my 3, which is Jason. Jason is now 19 years old. I rescued him from the juvenile hall. He had some problems because he was having problems with his mom and other siblings, being that it's another Black kid in a home ran by a Black woman. And it was just because he didn't really have any guidance. He didn't really have any of the men in and out of his mother's life that cared about him. I signed off. Not only did he turn his life around, but he went on to graduate from high school, and he is now working at Walmart, and he attends Stanislaus State University, in which he's majoring in criminal justice because he wants to be a civil rights attorney to help fight for the injustices of our people. And before I get on to the other 2, I just want to add, Jason. Jason decided to choose that because of his influence, not just from me and others that are here in California, but the general and you all from the Street Law Soldiers, even the Vocal Dialect. You all of you brothers and sisters contributed to helping to turn the brother's life around, because everything that I do, brothers and sisters, they do. We do what's called shadow. So I taught them all the skills that I have free of charge, and I signed off on it, and he's doing his thing. My other 2 is Anthony and Andrew. They are junior and senior in high school. They came from the temporary adoption foster care agency here in San Joaquin County. And what really touched me about them was they had been in homes with where there was, it was supposed to be to be a sturdy foundation, but what it did was really confuse the boys because they've been in homes with gay and lesbian women, gay and lesbian men, mixed couples, or the woman might be white, the man might be black, or both men, and so I had to get them out of that. And so again, I looked at the numbers, signed off on it, and they are doing exceptionally well in school as well, right here in Stockton, California. And by the way, Stockton is about an hour's drive from my hometown in Oakland, California. And I just want to make for record the late Honorable Dr. Huey P. Newton was my first revolutionary as far as really being a street soldier. He was my first revolutionary teacher because I am a former ex Junior Panther. So I was one of the little boys who had the little beret and a little white shirt and the black pants. And I used to go out there and watch and march with the older men because I had relatives, brothers and cousins and what have you, and the men and women of the village and the community, which is missing now. All of those were a part of the overall Black Panthers, and that what brought me in to become a junior Black Panther. Jason, Andrew and Anthony are doing really, really well. They're doing good in school. They're on the right path. I brought them into my home under my rules and regulations, discipline and order, and time and patience. Um, um, when they first got here, they think it was like being in the military. There was no TVs in their room because there was no TVs when they got here. They have to be off all electronic devices by 9 o'clock, in bed by 10. Not so much with Jason now because he's an adult. And one of the things that I taught him coming up in his last few years of high school, going into college, is that he has to have self-discipline. So when you know better, you do better. So he has what's called self-monitoring. I'm trusting him to go to bed at the right time, Brother Gerald, so he can wake up, get his proper amount of sleep. I even work on a diet. I don't know if you guys know, all my groceries for the most part are exclusively from a halal grocery store in which all my meats and groceries are halal, none of those chemicals or what have you. So I'm teaching them everything. And to close off on this, it just came because I'm just naturally a giver from, being a ninth of 10 and looking up and seeing the examples of my parents, both sides of my grandparents, my aunties and uncles. And all of you are old enough to remember when you had the village and the community where everybody looked out for each other. And so the word that I use is that when stuff becomes embedded in you is like if you took the jab and that fluid is moving in your veins. The way that I operate, this stuff was embedded in me as a child. It doesn't mean that I'm any different than anybody else. A lot of folks don't come into empathy and sympathy and sharing and caring until they became adults. But thank God, 5 of my 6 sisters are older than me and all 3 of my brothers. And then, like I said, when you have those no nonsense Southern parents, you learn these things. And where I'm from, brothers and sisters, is that if something isn't broken, you don't fix it. In fact, you don't even go out there and tinker with it. And so that's what has carried me into being the giver, the natural born giver that I am. And because I seen how my parents and grandparents in the village and the community operated, taking in so many other people, strangers, not just children, but adults. And my background in working with children, life coach, mentor, classroom educator, Oakland and San Francisco Unified School District, in which Oakland educated me. Um, like I said, I'm always getting stuff concerning children, Black boys, Black girls, especially, in elementary, which is now really which is really like middle school and high school. And like I said, once I seen the program and I knew I had the room and I knew I had the patience to do it, I brought them on in, and all 3 of them are doing very, very, very well. But I cannot emphasize the fact that, again, because I have the attitude that I want them to shadow me, that including listening to lectures of everybody that I listen to. And that's what brought the boys into listening to the general, knowing who the street law soldiers. They know who you are. They call everybody the general, but yeah. And so I want you guys to all understand, brothers and sisters, the importance that you all play over these electronic devices and helping to mold these young black boys and young men. And all they needed, brothers, was a chance. That's all they needed was a chance. The first night, even though they came here, Jason came separately than two brothers. I did the same process. I just sit down and I just listen to them speak from the heart and just listen, 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 and listen. And then I just answered. If it was a question, I answered each question individually. And if it was something that I had to say in response to what they shared with me, that's what I did. We call that breaking the ice. And that's what
Okay.
I did.
The one thing I do like, the criminal defense. I love that. I'm into commerce myself. It's actually a small passion of mine. I need to brush back up on it because a few people are asking me to do some paperwork for them. But understanding law is very important in this society because I read a book one time and the Indian said the white man has a double tongue. They would say one thing and then it will mean something else. And that's the same way we're learning law or commerce. Um, the judge sits on the bench. Bench in Latin means bank. So I think that's very important. We need that. We need that for us that amongst our people. And I think it's even greater because he gets a solid foundation. And not only he having a solid foundation, but he also get a chance to see the revolution side of it. So he knows how important it is for him to elevate in that particular arena.
Absolutely. And not him, them, all of them. There's no exception. All of them get the same treatment. And by the way, where I'm from, we call it the forked tongue. You have one tongue and it's split both ways. You're talking out of both
Yeah.
sides of your mouth.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So absolutely. Go right ahead, brothers.
No, well,
Hey,
first of
General.
all, it's always an honor, man. And um, when someone is selected, speaking just of the street law soldiers in general, when someone is selected, it's not because there's a slot to be filled or there's a need for individuals. These are ancestral calls, and so these divine messages that I get, I only convey the messages, and because you all who represent, not just the street law soldiers, but black men in general, black men, not alpha males. I mean, not betas, not simps. I'm talking about black men in general. So, I'm just enamored that these bills are becoming more powerful, and the energy and the strength that is dispersed through this particular show, and allowing you, because I'm not going to say anything. I'm right now, while the flow of the Most High and the ancestors are working through you, you know, as you represent us, not just the street law soldiers, but black men in general. With these dropping these gems on our brothers and sisters. I'm just gonna sit back and allow you to do what you do, bro.
Thank you, General. And again, I'm honored and privileged to represent you and the street law soldiers and all our brothers and sisters out there that's fighting daily for freedom, justice, equality, liberation, and salvation of our people. But what I wanted to say more importantly is that, in my opinion, this is something that anyone, of course, with, things what we call the stars have to line up. But this is something that anyone can do if they feel that they have the time. You have to have patience. You have to have a lot of energy, and you have to be very, very understanding and leave your judgmentalism, at the door. And like I said earlier, and just sit down and listen to the young men. because they taught me so much, and I learned from them from listening to them. And they shared stories with me of all the different households that they've been to, and all the things that they were exposed to on the negative, and very few on the positive. And that's why I have to reiterate again for the third time. I am a witness through these brothers, through these boys, that and I learned this as a child, and that example was shown to me as a little snotty nosed boy in West Oakland. It really does take a village to waste a child, because there's something that um, my brother Knowledge Born 7 said was, and I really appreciate our brother saying that, is that the importance of bringing them in to the Black liberation of our people, because they're learning something at a young age that I was able to learn, and I'm going to continue to emphasize on it. It has made a difference. So thank you, General, and the Street Law Soldiers, and thank you, Vocal Dialect, with my dear brother Knowledge Born 7 and my brother Kenwado Akil, because again, everything that you all have shared with me, if we never speak again, if you never see me on camera again, if you never see me post on Facebook again, I want each and every one of you to understand that you all have helped me turn these brothers into upstanding young men who only needed a chance and an opportunity. And so for someone to really, 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 really care, and be willing to you have to make sacrifices in your life as well. And so I cannot say enough about how all of you all's contribution has contributed to these brothers turning out to be very upstanding, very good young men. And let me say this before the next question or comment. What holds near and dear to me, in fact, one of, I think, Andrew or Anthony, one of them are working on these very, very prominent words, very powerful words that the general said to me the very first time we had the conversation about me opening my home. And he told me, he said, Brother Malik, and I didn't expect to hear this, because there's so many other things that I could have heard that would have also been encouraging. And I think he knows where I'm going with this. He said, Brother Malik, I want you to remember this. That's 3 less caskets that have to be lowered in the ground, because we all know, being in the so-called conscious community, or just being woke, or whatever you want to call it, that most of the crime, especially here in California, San Joaquin County, and down in Oakland, it is indeed the youngsters that are committing these crimes. And when you come into a home like mine, and you sit down and you listen to these boys and y'all educate each other, you can see why that you have so many young people out in the streets out of control. Because again, and I don't know what I don't know what their home environment is. All I can tell you is the environment that these 3 boys came out of. They came out of single parent homes by single Black mothers. They boys, they stick their chests out. A woman ain't gonna tell me nothing. I know you, my mama. Men running in and out, or even if they had them, the men never cared about the boys. They just, it's one of those things you hear them say, you want the mama, but you don't want the kids. You know what I mean? And so they had to deal with all of that. And we need to understand, for those of us that don't, the importance of mental health, even with youth. Black boys and Black girls are not immune from mental illness. And there's a lot of mental illness, in terms of untreated mental illness, that I seen and heard in these boys. But thank God, because of my background and the help of so many others, they didn't have to go get counseling or anything, because, like I said, once they came into my home, they're my boys, and I'm gonna teach them everything that I know, and so far, so good.
You
Oh,
made a
and by
valid
the
point.
way, and by the way, let me say this: when all 3 of them initially came to my home, I got no funding. No funding whatsoever. So everything that I did, I mean, my bill went from $300 a month in groceries to almost $1,000 a month. Because if you guys aren't around these youngsters today, man, they can eat. Trust me, they can eat, and they eat a lot. I mean, I'm very serious about this.
I know.
Yeah, they eat a lot, and that's not even counting the 10 grandsons that I have and the 3 granddaughters, and so, and which they have been able to meet, uh, most of them, especially the boys, but they eat a lot. And so I took on, not only did I open up my home, Captain Gerald, but I took on the responsibility of full cost. And then after a couple months, they started getting, I started getting the money in to help me take care of them. Now the catch is, and this is what I had to explain to General one day on the build we was doing, when you get exit out of the foster care system, okay, that money shuts off. So basically, Jason is on his own, and that's why he went on and signed up for school. And of course, as a grant writer, I use my resources to help him get, the schooling and all that, the funding and the grants and all that he needed to go to school. But then he also knew he couldn't just go to school, and it wasn't because I was hoovering over him or anything. He just knew, from me being the way that I am, is that if man don't work, man don't eat. And if man don't cook, man don't eat. So I initially, for like the first 2 months, I was carrying all 3 boys on my own. And like I said, I bought this home, and with the intentions, and of course I bought it big enough because I have grandchildren, I have siblings. You never know. I'm a family man. And so I was glad that, the ancestors blessed me and guided me to get a big enough home. But I learned that from my parents, always have enough home, enough room for family. And so when I bought them in for the first 2 months or so, brothers and sisters, there was absolutely no funding. I mean, I was literally carrying them on my own. But again, if you care and you have patience and understanding, you really have empathy and sympathy and compassion, you can do it too, brothers and sisters. But you have to put your heart into it, and it takes a lot of work. And by no means, let me make this perfectly clear, by no means is it easy, because you got to remember you're dealing with 3 different personalities. It doesn't matter that Andrew and Anthony are brothers. They still are individuals, and they have their own personalities. They have their own issues that they're dealing with separately. So not only did I have to go from living by myself, opening my home to 3 strange teenage boys, but I had to learn who they are, they likes and they dislikes, because it's not about me. You can never, in a position like this where it's so easy to yield your power, you can never make it about you. You have to. They have to unquestionably understand that they are important to you. How they feel is important to you. How they the things that are bothering them. You want to sit down and have an open dialogue like we're doing now, and just iron out all the creases. And once you do that, you know, um, if you keep your foot on the pedal, and you're sincere in what you do, all things will work out for themselves. Do I have any complaints? Absolutely not. Did I have to change my lifestyle? Absolutely, because um, I'm not in the home by myself anymore, and so these are the things that is hard for people. A lot of people don't want others violating their space, So you have to be very particular about who you're allowing into your home. And in this case, man, they were 3 black boys, 3 caskets that didn't have to be lowered in the ground. And actually, I'm thankful and honored and appreciative to the ancestors for putting me into this position to continue, to continue to give back until the last breath and the casket drops.
That's being our community, dealing with people in your community. So,
Absolutely.
It's dope, brother, man.
And I'm glad you said that, because I left that out, brother Kenwato Akil. That I took them around and let them meet the neighbors as well, because it makes a difference. If you have a good neighbor, and then the neighbors speak highly of you, and that helps the boys. But yeah, I taught them the importance of the community build. Obviously, they know that I came up I'm not this way just because of my mother and father and having relationships with both grandmothers and both grandfathers, aunties and uncles, and of course the 9 siblings. But the importance and that having that village and the community. When you walk outside your door, you can go 30 blocks in any direction, north, south, east, west. Somebody knew my mother, one of my older brothers, you know what I mean? And all of that makes a difference, because when you know that the eyes of the community are watching you, and you know what that punishment will be in terms of coming into my parents' in them home, it keeps you out of trouble. And that's why I said, I'm no better than anyone. I just never got in trouble as far as a juvenile, even as an adult, because I had real men around me, brothers like you all, that will point you in a direction. But then when you know you're going in the right direction and you look around and say, well, brother Kenwado and the general ain't looking, and you turn around and go in the opposite direction, then these are men that will put their foot up in your ass, and they had the permission to do that, 30 blocks in any direction. So absolutely, brother Kenwado, thank you for bringing that up, because they are very much aware of the importance of being in tune and in touch with your village, your community, i.e. your neighbors on both sides, behind you and in front of you.
That's correct. Even when a lot of times, and I commend all those who have found a way to not get caught up in the criminal injustice system that was set up and designed for us. And I hear a lot of brothers always talk about if they hadn't have done this, or they hadn't have made this mistake or that mistake. When you reach a certain level and you've been selected by the Most High and our beloved ancestors, that you've been given that divine assignment, whatever route it took for you to get here was meant for you to take, because you wouldn't have gotten here if it weren't for these particular perils and these trials and these failures, these mishaps, these misjudgments of self, this self-hatred, self-doubt, being taught so many times that you wanted a winner, that you couldn't win, that you begin to believe that and accept that and act on that and conduct yourselves as such. And to be able to go through that, to be able to endure that, because it was a bigger picture. It was a much bigger picture. It was a much bigger plan, and the journey was already laid out. And so, because all of us come from some form of a different walk of life. Some of us, have been okay, have had those male counterparts that were positive and gave divine instruction, and then, for brothers in my era, we had to figure it out as we went along, because that's when feminism had actually catapulted and black men started dispersing from the homes, due to welfare, and all those type of things, and then the alcohol and the drugs kicked in to really bring a high level of dismemberment to the black community. And so, my generation as teenagers, we had to actually figure everything out. We were men before we were grown,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even though we come from difficult environments or whatever, we always still had a sense of community with us. We don't have that anymore. Why is that? We don't have it no more.
The reason for that, one of the reasons for that, when you're dealing with a system that only strive and only can remain, in power, is through the oppression of those the oppression that are those that are the original man and woman of the planet. So it's all types of certain devices. It's basically not one answer, to cover that type of I call it a tragedy, where we lost the communion, we lost togetherness, we lost hope in one another. We begin to turn on one another. So this is why I always say that slavery never ended, because this was the same way 200 years ago, man. You had, all these slaves just wasn't singing and holding hands picking cotton, man. It just didn't go like that. You had rats, you had agents, you had people, and they were under a system too that brought dissension between the slaves. So it actually never ended. What had taken place, it became more covert to the point where now it's overt, because once you get people to accept that it's normal, to kill your reflections and have disdain for your own reflections, it's normalized now. So, just say, for example, this build here, this show in particular, this is abnormal.
Right.
This is abnormal to the flow of things. See, the real flow of things, if all four of us are beefing about whether LeBron James been in Diddy's house or, who's beefing with, see, that's normal. That's normality in our psychic now. But see, this is abnormal thinking now. To us, this is normal, but now it's abnormal.
Hey, Bernard Expressive had asked, I guess he asked you this, Brother Shock, or El Muhammad. Bro, how are we going to...
I want to piggyback if I can. I'm taking notes on two things.
He want to read you the question someone want to ask you, Malik.
Go right ahead, Captain.
This comes from the brother Bernard Expressive. He said, bro, how are we going to get it?
Oh, I'm looking at it. It says, how are we going to fix it? How are we going to fix what? Is my question to Brother Bernard. What is his question? How are we going to fix what?
The affliction in our communities.
Yeah.
That happens with our kids.
Well, that's why I want to piggyback off of two things the general said. First of all, he's absolutely right about these bills being abnormal, because I still get questions about what I decided to do with the three boys, because it's not normal for folks to open up their homes and let strangers in, even if they're teenage boys. And another thing that I want to piggyback off that the general said is when he said something, and it didn't go over my head at all. And I want the people to know how important it is. See, I was allowed to be a little boy. See, because the general said he had, and I know that's a lot of brothers and sisters that I know even personally. I was allowed to be a little boy, Brother Gerald, because I had to, not just because of my family, even inside the home with the 9 siblings and the parents, not just because of my aunties and uncles, and not just because of the grandparents and all of that, but I was able to be a little boy because I had the village and the community. And that's why I keep saying, I don't just take the credit because of what's going on here on the grounds of my home, even in the camper that I'm sitting in now. It is those like you that have also helped me turn these brothers in the right direction. So yes, this is unnormal what we're doing. It's unnormal what I'm doing. And the general is absolutely correct that it makes a difference when you get a chance to be a little boy versus having to be a man and take on manly responsibilities as a teenager. Because all I had to do was go to school, run track, play football, and that allowed me. I played Pop Warner football. I played high school football. That allowed me to get a scholarship to UCLA, play football and track. You know what I mean? And I was able to stay focused and be a little boy. I was able to stay focused and focus on school in the classroom and focus on the football and track after school, because exactly what the general said. I didn't have to be a man before I was a boy. And that's the same thing. I'm also adding this because that's the same thing that these 3 young men were experiencing. All I did, Brother Captain Gerald and the listening audience, I just came in and cut the freeway off, because they were living the exact same way that the general has so eloquently spoken. They was living, Captain Gerald, as if they had to be men before they were allowed to be boys. And that includes all the different homes that they were in and out of. And in closing, this is the first literally structured home, overall structured home, where everything that's supposed to be, I didn't say perfect. I don't want anyone, you know, because you got to be politically correct in society today, because
Yeah.
so many of us are driven on feelings and emotions and fear. I don't want them to say, but it gives them a chance to be boys. If they want to play sports in high school, they can play sports. If Jason wants to play sports in college, he can play sports in college, because he knows he'll always have a home to come back to. And let me just add this, and I know Captain Gerald and the General have heard this. We went out and got a 34-foot camper that brand new, fully loaded, because to show you guys how serious this can get, these boys never thought that black people had recreational vehicles. You know, they only thought white folks had campers parked in their yards, because that's all they saw. No one ever exposed them to that. So my niece literally helped me go out, and I'm sitting at the dining room table of a fully loaded camper right now that we went out and got. And the boys was instrumental in us doing it, because I talked to my niece and she was like, wow. And we went out and got it, and I'm sitting in it right now. Matter of fact, they've literally made it they main home more than the front house. So all of these things come in, and that's why I say you have to be willing to make a sacrifice. I'm not talking about their sacrifice. They've already been sacrifices. I'm talking about what we have to do as men, just like the men, not just my father, my grandfather, just like the men. I'm gonna focus on the men in the community did for me. They kept me focused to where I was able, because I wouldn't have been able to go to college having so many siblings in the house, you know, if it wasn't for me being able to be focused and be a star athlete. You know what I mean? And so it makes a difference. So I just wanted to point those things out. And again, thank you, brothers and sisters, for having me on this platform. I appreciate it. The boys aren't listening now, but the General knows and Captain Gerald knows. When they miss a lecture, I make it their homework assignment, because between 4 and 7, that's called their study hours. And that's generally when I play things back, like Vokal Dialect, or when the General didn't went live or something. So this will fall in the same realm. One day this week, they'll be listening to this little dialogue, this little build that we're putting together right now. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you.
You know what? Shaka made some excellent points when he talked about the things that affect us when we're reared at a young age, and you did too, Malik. One thing I thought about while you were talking and while Shaka was talking, Shaka said about the drugs that affect our community. But before the drugs came, we was already high. Because one thing you had to understand is that when you're coming home as a latchkey kid, mom not there, pop not there, and you had to deal with it, and you had to take care of your brothers and sisters, it can go a little haywire in the household. And those kids have to think, we as kids, because I know I was one of those kids that was a latchkey kid. And when you come home to an empty house, and you have to make grown decisions, you know, because a kid could set the house on fire, someone could fall and get hurt, someone can injure themselves in any type of way, but the parent is not there. And the parent was never going to be charged as they are today, because today they say that you abandon the child when you leave them alone. But when we were coming up, we weren't abandoned. It's just that our parents had to work to take care of the household. Economically, we were still in strife because we lived in poverty-stricken neighborhoods. When you're living in poverty-stricken neighborhoods, that's like an experiment with rats. You have people turn in on each other instead of turning outward to look for someone like you, Malik, that came in as affable, generous, kind, understanding, to help guide that child, give that child some sense of direction. But let me say this now, they removed that when they took the recreational centers out of the communities, when they took the things out of the community that helped the child to be diligent about life. They programs. So that way they can destroy the kids. Then we had those pipelines to the institutions such as the jails, the penitentiaries, and other places. So I never look at to say a child can't be helped because I did it. I worked with the Superior Court of DC to help kids that was coming out the judicial system. So we can't just say it's one thing. They made it surmountable about the things that affect us in the community. So we have to step back. And as I said before, you're doing a splendid job. I honor you, brother, for what you're doing.
Thank you.
You are looking after some kids. We are taking that road to helping out our people in our communities. But eventually we're gonna have more brothers that's gonna be like you. And I'd like to hear you advise some brothers that are economically in that position, how they can help and do that and raise kids and help the other teenagers from having to go that route that we had to go.
Thank you, Captain Gerald. And it's something that because I'm taking notes, because I tell you, I'm never too old. You're never too old to learn.
Absolutely.
And everything that I'm learning, I'm passing down to the brothers. The importance of the latchkey. Not only am I familiar with it from being a kid and having other kids that were latchkey, but as a former classroom educator. By the way, I taught English and math and special ed. That's my specialty. But you're absolutely right. See, if the folks are listening to your story and then listen to mine, see, I never went to a house and it was empty and I had to fend for myself. Because remember, I got 8 brothers and sisters older than me. So even when my older brothers and sisters was me leaving out of the home, getting married, going off to college, my oldest brother, went to Vietnam and all that, there was always adult supervision in the house. And that's why, like you're saying, Captain Gerald, it makes a difference. Now, I'm from West Oakland. Right around the corner, Myrtle Street is right around the corner from San Pablo Avenue. If you do any history about San Pablo Avenue, that was the biggest host row in Oakland, California. That and what's called MacArthur Boulevard. Matter of fact, the movie The Mac was literally filmed around the corner. Most of those scenes was filmed around the corner from my house on up and down San Pablo Avenue. And so I'm saying all that to say this. Sure, there was drugs. There was violence, there was alcoholism, there was prostitution. Here we go again, brothers and sisters, kings and queens. It was the village and the community that kept the likes of Malik Abdul Muhammad away from that. No, you don't go this way, brother Malik. You go that way. See, this grown folk business over here. See, you go that way. And so when you have, like the general said, and all of you understand, when you have those and by the way, I'm talking about professional men, educated men, but they turn around and will put their foot in your ass. And so when you have those examples, see, I don't have no excuse. See, I don't have no excuse because I had you got to remember, I'm in a household where I'm going to college graduations and I don't even know what they're graduating from. I just know they're either graduating from high school or they're graduating from college. I never knew what a PhD was until my first two brothers got one right there out of the streets of West Oakland. They wasn't born with spoons in their mouth. My mother, although she birthed 10 children, went back to school and got her nursing degree. So I had all the examples. I had those. I remember the white pork and Kool-Aid. I remember the weed and matchbooks or the little yellow envelopes. I remember all of that. But brother, Captain Gerald, I wasn't allowed to be around all of that. And so again, I want to emphasize on the importance of what the general said. We all fall by the wayside, but we get up. But a lot of it has to do with who our examples was. And I must admit, I had overwhelmingly positive examples in my life coming up as a young snotty-nosed boy right there on Myrtle Street, right down the street from my famous high school, McClymonds High School. The likes of Bill Russell and Veda Pinson and so on comes out of there. I was able to go and be a little boy, be a teenager, be an athlete in high school, and it made a difference. And again, Captain Gerald, you're absolutely correct. This is what allows me to turn around and be the example. Although I've traveled all over the world and taught and all of that, it gives me an opportunity to be an example to these three boys. And hopefully, like our brother Knowledge Born 7 said, they've in the direction now when one of them is going to school to be a civil rights attorney, so he can fight for freedom, justice, and equality, and liberation and salvation for our people. And the example, just like me, these boys are in the example now where they don't have any excuses. Everything they need is here. But you cannot get away from rules, regulations, and discipline. Rules, regulation, and discipline. Those are the three key words that all three of them knew, Captain Gerald and audience. All three of them knew that in clear English, written on the side of the house in boxcar letters. Discipline and order. Discipline and order. And they must understand that you have rules and regulations everywhere you go, not just in school, and not
That's
just
right.
on your job.
But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I do.
Ken
Yeah,
wanted to add something.
I remember a few conversations that we had, on our bills on phone. You had told us the reason why that you decided to adopt children or whatever, take care of kids, because you had said, and this stuck in my head, man. I don't really talk much, but this stuck in my head. You had said a lot of kids, gay couples be adopting these kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
You had told us,
Yeah.
So you had
Yeah.
said a lot of go ahead, in a couple of you said a lot of Europeans adopt these kids.
Yep.
A lot of, and that just really blew my mind. What you had said, we don't adopt our kids, because you said you seen it in black and white.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the first thing
That really stuck to me, man.
and I'm glad it did, because one of the first things that I thought about, Gerald, Captain Gerald and Brother Kenwato, one of the first things I thought about is how these black actors, how these white, so many, even more than athletes, how so many white athletes, I mean, so many white, like movie people have adopted
Yeah.
black children. And I was just reading one I forgot that famous white actor. She got 3 adopted boys and got them all transgender right in her house. So, and how do I know this? Because not only do
Madonna is one of them.
exactly,
Madonna,
that's what I'm talking about. So not only
Angelina Jolie.
That's exactly. So not only do I know this because it's in their record, the types of home that they were living in, but remember what I shared with y'all. You sit down and you listen, and you listen, and you listen, and you can feel the pain. You can feel the trauma that these boys have been through. Not and let me make
That's
this
right.
clear. This is a separate category from what they're dealing with as far as why they're in this home. This is just a category of the types of homes that they've been in. Let me make that clear. That's a whole different category. Nothing to do with the general problems that they had, which had them in adoption, juvenile hall, and what have you. But the trauma that they went through, Knowledge Born 7, even being in those homes with this unusual, or here we go with Brother General's word, with this abnormal behavior. It's not normal for black boys and girls, okay, to see 2 men sleeping in the bed together. It's not normal for black boys and girls to see 2 white women sleeping in the bed together. It's not normal for black boys and girls. Well, it's normal now, but y'all get my point. To be calling each other honey, and she's a husband, and the other one is the wife, and all. They went through all of that. So what I want you guys to understand is that was a whole nother layer of stress that they had to go through that had nothing to do with them being in the position that they're in from the get-go. And I can only hope you all understand that. In other words, being placed into the homes that they were caused a whole nother level of trauma and stress that was absolutely positively unnecessary. But one of the biggest problems that we have, and before I go any further with this, I'm going to say this and then I want to add to it. One of the biggest problems we have is what Brother Kenwato just repeated. We don't have enough people that look like us that care about those black and brown children out there. I don't want to hear it. I got the papers. That's why they in black. That's why they in gay homes with white Europeans and all of that, because not enough of us are stepping up and helping our brothers. Now, let me make this clear as well. It doesn't mean that you're in a position where you have a big enough home to open it up to them. You can help in many ways, but when you're not getting any help at all, and this is why I'm gonna go in on Dr. Umar so hard, because if he has nothing else, brothers and sisters, let's leave the school out of it. Let's leave the school out of it when I go on this little rage for about 2 minutes and I'm done. He has buildings, functional buildings. If he cared so much about black boys, like he's built his whole fake career off of, he could have took these same 3 boys. Let's just say hypothetically, he could have took these same 3 boys, brothers and sisters, and if nothing else, he could have put them in the gym inside of tents, at least, because the key is they're not sleeping on the street. Because another thing y'all need to understand, the homelessness for black boys and girls is also out of control.
Yeah.
It's on the
So we
rise.
got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
You have problems as an adult. Our children have problems, and not enough of us that look like them care. Because like I said, if nothing else, Dr. Umar Johnson could have. If it was the gym, one of those offices, take that building and go around the city, because it's in the hood anyway. Matter of fact, it's about 5 blocks from a level 5 prison, and it's in the hood. He could have taken black boys and girls, or just one gender, because they don't like them to be in the same rooms. That's why I got all boys. And now I'm gonna say this, and I'm done. He could have took those buildings, brothers and sisters, and put them to use under the guise that he cares so much about black boys all over this country. Yet you haven't seen him in one office. You haven't seen him in one building. You don't see him with any schools. You don't see him with any staff. And you know why he works solo? I'm a licensed grant writer in 3 states. I've never seen a board of directors for a nonprofit organization to only have 1 member. And that 1 member controls everything. That's Dr. Umar Johnson. Y'all, it's no secret if you understand the game, what's going on. If you work solo bolo, you don't have to be accountable to anybody.
For
So
nobody.
You can bring in $2 and $3 million all over and lie on your taxes. All this is public record. See, and this is what upsets me, because there are brothers and sisters like Dr. Umar Johnson specifically build a reputation up over helping the children, but you can't open up a building and get homeless black boys off the street right there in Wilmington, Delaware. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, brother, because I did it. I'm 61 years old, long retired. I don't have to do nothing. I get a Social Security and pension check that takes care of me, but y'all know I got all my little legitimate outside hustles. It didn't stop me from opening up my home and giving these 3 innocent black boys another opportunity at life. In other words, again, to piggyback off the general, to give these black boys a simple opportunity to be black boys. Because what's so important about the general saying that is, a lot of times, and a lot of you probably can relate to this, I know the general obviously can, a lot of times when you have to be a man when you should be being a boy, it gets you into unnecessary trouble. Can I get an amen? It gets you into unnecessary trouble. See? Can I get if the preacher can ask for an amen,
Yeah.
I can ask for one for free. Can I get an amen?
You got it, sir.
See?
That's right.
That's right. You ain't saying nothing wrong.
That's all I'm saying, brothers and
Yeah,
sisters.
you ain't
So
saying nothing wrong.
Yeah, because you may have some more questions, and I know we're on the time thing, but go ahead. But I want to let you guys know that I'm very, very compassionate about what I'm doing, and you have to be. It is not easy, brothers and sisters. It's not easy, man, because you got to remember everything, and I'm multi-talented, multi-trades, multi-degrees, but it's not easy when you want to do it the right way and really show these boys how to be men and really show them what it means to shadow someone who they know is doing the right thing. Because let me tell y'all something. See, I can't put on no act and fool them, because if they leave my home and I'm full of shit, just like they let me know all the other homes was full of shit, then that's the reputation that I'll have as well. So they know I'm legitimate about everything that I do. And in closing, let me tell you guys something. Actions will always supersede words. Actions will always supersede words. So when you up at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday trimming trees, they're not used to that. They used to sleep until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, then get up and 2 o'clock in the evening, they get up and eat and watch cartoons and whatever, and they on their phone all day. Here, discipline in order. And I always tell them in a nice, funny way, y'all to thank me later. Go right ahead, brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the people that listen to the show. Christopher DeWitt, Sister Nisa Sabaz, Born for Clothing, man. I see you Saturday, brother, man. Our brother Tex Johnson, Bernard Expressions. We got the sister Nita B. What's up, Nita? And that's about it. Gerald Hooks. I can't forget about the brother Gerald Hooks. Thank y'all for listening. Subscribe to the page. Hit that like button as well. Appreciate y'all.
Go ahead, get your brother Shaka, brother Gerald, even you, brother Ken. Give your final thoughts before we close the show out.
Well, Bernard asked the question about how can we fix it, and and a lot of times we miss the most integral parts. We have to fix ourselves first.
Yeah,
we have to fix ourselves. You know,
that's true.
We always want to fix the community, but you can't fix the community if your house is in shambles. You know, you can't tell people how to eat healthy and you eat reckless. You know, it has to come from internally first, and then once you have that internal cleansing, you know, mind, body, and soul. Nobody's perfect. I'm not saying nobody's perfect, but be enough where your light can shine and be a reflection and an example to others. You know, because people know your aura. People can sense whether you solid. People can sense whether you bullshit. And so that will, and then this is why I always say, walk like gods and talk like gods and goddesses. You know, and when people see that, once it becomes infectious in our communities, I'm gonna say hoods, because we're not communing, you know, so it's really no community, you know. It's just a hood. We don't even conduct ourselves as neighbors. So this is where I just say in the hood. And once it becomes infectious in these examples, without allowing the community, because we have a history of doing that. Every time somebody stands up, we have our fists up, we walk with them until the race soldiers come, and then we leave them standing. Then they meet an early demise, and then we'll memorialize and try to immortalize them, you know, which takes the wind out of our people, where nobody wants to even step forward anymore. So, you know, and now that we're in this time and era, it's a whole new different regime. It's a whole new different energy and vibration of men that are coming to the forefront. But it has to be, you know, you have to self-vet yourself. You shouldn't have to wait for nobody to have to vet you, you know, because that brings suspicion. I'm just saying, based on the 21 years that I've been functioning this organization. If you self-vetted, you know, like Gerald, we were talking about earlier, people with bad credit, you know, they're the only people that need co-signers, you know. So when we take care of ourselves and be examples, you know, like the Parliament say, free your mind, your ass will follow, you know, real simple. And so, and as a result, you see the West Coast chairman, how he speaks fluently, clearly, powerful, you know, and all of y'all, you know, how we build even off the camera. The phone conferences are more intense and more in depth than the show. So, you know, as we continue to be that beacon of light and beacon of hope for people, man, I appreciate our West Coast chairman. I'm proud to even say, and I take it proud that we had somebody of that magnitude that's on the other side of the country, just holding it down, you know, with the rites of passage program, you know. So, you know, I appreciate you, you know, and your work will, you know, forever be remembered.
Brother Gerald,
I'll follow up a little bit with that. What Shaka said, that's affable on your part to have such a benign character that helps ones that are unfortunate, going through such travesties from home and communities and environment. I applaud you, brother. And I hope you continue to keep up the great work. And we know even in your condition, because me and you had long talks about the condition,
people
what
forget about
precedes
that.
people to see, it ain't really what it is. Because we are unhealthy, but we still thrive to try to make our people and our places better.
Brother Ken.
Yo, man, appreciate you, Brother Muhammad. You a real one, man. You know, straight from the heart, man. I love what you're doing, man. It's real. You know what I mean? And I also want to say, hey, Vocal Dialect, you can check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook as well. And I also want to say, Brother T Shaka, he has a show about 3 times during the week between 7:30 and 8:30 p.m. And he coming on tomorrow night, right? Right,
Yes,
Brother
sir.
Shaka?
Yes, sir.
They're the T Shaka Sankofa. He bring that fire, y'all. Check him out. Go follow him on Facebook. Peace out. That's all I gotta say.
I want to say real quick before we end the live. I mean, in the show. You know, I see, brother, you're very tenacious, and you know what you do. You know, you're all about unity, elevation, and manifestation, which is very important. So is the rest of us on this panel as well. You know, giving thanks to the Creator for even putting you in the midst and handling business. You know, I really appreciate that. This is Vocal Dialect. I'm Knowledge Born 7, Kenwado Akia. We have Shaka Sankofa, Gerald Moore. We also have Abdul Malik Muhummad. Peace, family. We see y'all again next week.
Before we
Oh, what
go,
about
man.
Saturday, man? Saturday.
Oh yeah, Saturday. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Tell them about Saturday before we end it.
Okay, Saturday, Unity and Hope. We're going to be at the Amanala Griot Afrocentric Museum. That's in 337 Doggone Place, Southwest on the west end of Atlanta from 2 to 10. We're going to have myself, Brother Knowledge Born 7, Brother Kenwado Akil, Captain Gerald Moore, Queen Mama Earth, the main speakers. You know, we may have a couple of others, maybe Sister Rhonda Payne or whatever, but we're gonna we coming to the ATL as always. You know, we're gonna bring that truth, we're gonna bring that fire, and we're gonna represent the street law soldiers. You know, Brother Malik gonna be with that. He's gonna send his energy to us as well as the junior street law soldiers and those others branches of the street law soldiers. So I encourage anybody that's in that southern region, southeast region, to make it your will to show up and grow up and watch us blow up.
Can I leave you guys with this, brothers and sisters, if you don't mind? I just want to say on behalf of myself and the junior street law soldiers, Anthony, Andrew, and Jason, want for your brother and sister that in which you want for yourself. Each one teach one to reach one. And in the words of our great general that he just said, make sure you fix yourself so you can be blessed and be in a position to help fix others. We thank our ancestors for their guidance, their mercy, and their protection. Thank you, brothers, so much for having me, and I appreciate it. And don't think that your words over this camera, these devices, have not made a difference in helping me give these young, innocent Black men another opportunity to do what? To be boys and be great contributors to society. Peace, love, and light, Black power.
Peace, love.
To each, every one of you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, brother Muhammad, anytime you want to come on, man, let us know, man. You already know.
No problem. Thank you, brothers. And again, this will be our brother. This will be the young junior street law soldiers. This will be their homework assignment one day this week during a study hour, which is from 4 to 7.